Chicago way. He had a boogie style no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then the trumper came up and he was gone with the draft. In the army now, I'm going Beverly. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company B. They made him go.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on behalf of some people who are getting up a parade. It's the biggest parade in the world. It lasts for 2 weeks without stopping. The line of march extends from coast to coast and from the border of Canada to the border of Mexico. And there are more marchers in it than there are people in the United States. Yes, sir, that's right. I kind of think it sounds a little crazy myself, but it's true. You see, the marchers aren't people. They're dimes. Little silver 10-cent pieces out of men's pockets, women's handbags, children's piggy banks. Millions on millions of them joined up in this parade. It's the annual March of Dimes sponsored by your National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis. And it isn't only the biggest parade in the world, it's the best, because it does the most good. Now, I've got figures on that to prove it to you. But I won't start out by telling you that there were 13,000 infantile paralysis victims here in this country in 1945, and it was the fourth worst epidemic in the recorded history of the disease. I'll just begin by talking about a kid. A kid, well, a kid likes to play and whoop and holler, make a nuisance out of himself, banging around the house. When his folks want him downstairs, he's upstairs. When they want him in, he's out throwing a ball through somebody's window or something. And his folks get mad, you know. What wouldn't they give to be able to keep him still for a whole afternoon? And then there comes an afternoon when he is still. Yeah, it was all right yesterday, but this morning he couldn't get out of bed. The doctor said it was infantile paralysis. The kid's going to keep still for an awful long time. His folks maybe don't say anything now. Dad sits in the corner with paper unfolded, but he isn't reading the paper. Mom just cries where nobody can see her. But they don't have to say what they'd give if the kid was up again, playing and whooping and hollering. They'd give all the money they had, their house and their car and their lives thrown in. Only it's too late. Well, now I've said that, I'll tell you the rest of it. That kid didn't live in a house in 1945. He lived in more than 13,000 houses. He was more than 13,000 kids. None of them different until this thing happened. He was city kids and country kids, rich kids, poor kids, big kids, little kids. Your National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis doesn't care who or what or where a kid is. If he's in danger of death or being crippled for life and his folks need to call for help, your National Foundation will be at his side. In almost any case, you know, they need to, because infantile paralysis costs such a lot. I've got figures on that, too, which I'll give to you in just a minute. And when I do, remember the kid. They're for him. They're for infantile paralysis. Now, it's a pretty bad financial problem to be sick anyhow for most people. President Truman has said this in his health message to Congress last November. He said, "The principal reason why people do not receive the care they need is that they cannot afford to pay for it on an individual basis at the time they need it. This is true not only for needy persons. It is also true for a large proportion of normally self-supporting persons. They may be hit by sickness that calls for many times the average cost, in extreme cases for more than their annual income. When this happens, they may come face to face with economic disaster. Many families, fearful of expense, delay calling the doctor long beyond the time when medical care would do the most good." Yes, but you delay calling a doctor for a kid with infantile paralysis, and you're taking away the kid's one chance to grow up straight and useful and happy. You've got to get care for him quick and go on getting care for him for a long time afterwards. And that's where my figures come in. Now, I'll skip the cost of doctors and nurses and ordinary hospitalization because you all probably know something about that. I'll come down to just one thing: the special appliances used in the treatment of infantile paralysis. Listen to what they cost. A swimming pool for $35,000. Now, that's not a Hollywood swimming pool, you understand. It's a hospital or scientific institution. And if you could see the little kids in it, getting back their strength and the use of their limbs, you'd know it was cheap at the price. But alone by yourself, well, maybe you wouldn't have the price. A respirator for $1,300. That's for patients with paralyzed lungs. They can't live without it. Somebody's got to provide it for them while they need it. But maybe you couldn't do it by yourself. The equipment for physical therapy, such as an electric cabinet for $520, and a whirlpool bath for $385, and an ultraviolet ray machine for $200, a hot pack machine for $125. Oh, and there's some little stuff among the appliances, too. Stuff a lot easier on the pocketbook, like a leg brace for $40, a wheelchair for $35. But I wouldn't say those were any easier on the heart, especially if you knew that they mightn't have to be bought at all if the kid could be cured by the big stuff. You've got to get him by the big stuff. And you say there isn't that much money in the world. Oh, sure there is. Here it comes across the country on parade, the March of Dimes. The millions on millions of little round 10-cent pieces jingling their music to march by, with dollars joining in because there's no law against it. Dimes and dollars pouring out of all the houses to give a future to all the victims of infantile paralysis. $5 million worth of them in 1945, spent for medical care and treatment for those victims hit by the fourth greatest infantile paralysis epidemic. Here they come now in 1946. By January the 30th, the date which will always commemorate the birthday of Franklin D. Roosevelt, our great war president, there will be enough of them to support this tremendous work which he founded. There will be enough because you will open your doors and send your dimes and dollars out into the parade. Do it today, ladies and gentlemen. Join the March of Dimes, and half of them will come marching back again and take care of your neighbor and your kid if there should be need this year.
The cat seemed to understand, because the next day the cat went out and drafted a band, and our company jumped when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. A toot, a toot, a toot-a-dat, a toot, it blows the day to the bar. In boogie rhythm, you can't throw a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with them. He makes the company jump when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. He was the boogie woogie bugle boy of company B.